Hi, good morning. I'm Jared Ferrari with the Narrative Project, Connecticut's only anti-racist public relations firm. Thank you everybody for coming today. We will be hearing from the staff of the Connecticut Justice Alliance, including Executive Director Christina Quaranta, Communities Connections Associate Jordan Wilson, and Justice Advisor Neil Bonilla, on the findings discovered from spending the past 2 years of the pandemic talking to impacted communities through vision sessions. We will also be hearing from the ACLU Connecticut's Claudine Constant. Thanks for joining us. After our speakers are finished, we'll spend some time taking questions if you have any. We'll try to keep it brief before it gets too warm out here. The digital report we're releasing today can be accessed by scanning the flow code or a QR code on the card you've been given, or you can pick up if you haven't gotten yet. As a final note, this kicks off a week of events for CTJA, including vision sessions in New Haven, Waterbury, and Norwalk. The week will culminate with a ticketed celebration at Brewport, right here in Bridgeport, this Friday. You can get more information on that at ctja.org. Right now, I'll hand it over to Jordan Wilson. You want much?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out today on this beautiful and hot Monday morning. My name is Jordan Wilson, and I am the Community Connections Associate with the Connecticut Justice Alliance, also known as CTJA. CTJA is a youth-adult partnership model working to end the criminalization of youth using organizing, advocacy, and public policy tools. And today, we are here to talk about those efforts. In June of 2020, CTJA released our Invest in Me CT campaign along with a report titled Ending the Criminalization of Youth, One Investment at a Time. The report and campaign calls for CT to build opportunity-rich communities and instead invest in youth success versus their arrest. The report and campaign were launched after CTJA and our team of justice advisors hosted a series of vision sessions. Vision sessions are raw and transparent conversations held with youth, families, communities, and stakeholders regarding different topics that we believe lead to the criminalization of youth and are vital for how we do our work to achieve our mission of ending the criminalization of youth. The vision sessions are facilitated by the justice advisors, who are young people directly impacted by the system in some way. As an organization, we recognize that having conversations around different factors that funnel young people into the youth legal system with the very entities that lead them there, or the very people that have been in those predicaments, are so important when it comes to transforming policy here in Connecticut. And we believe young people, families, and communities deserve a seat at the table when having conversations around youth legal reform. Nothing about us without us. After the launch of Invest in Me CT in June of 2020, CTJA continued to host vision sessions, and 2 years later sat down and analyzed our findings. This is why we're here today. While investing in our young people is always important, and we will continue to call for investment into communities, we also need to be having conversations around why young people are committing crimes and why addressing that at the root is imperative. Today, we release our 2022 report, an addendum to the original report titled Ending the Criminalization of Youth, Address the Root, which highlights the key findings of our vision sessions over the past 2 years and what we've learned as a result of the pandemic and conversations. I'll now pass it over to my colleague, Justice Advisor Neil, to talk a little bit more about what we found in our vision sessions and what you can expect to read in this newly released report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Good morning, everybody. My name is Neil Bonilla, and I am a Justice Advisor with CTJA. I want to extend my personal thanks today for your attendance as I look forward to sharing significant knowledge as I quickly extend some insight on our report, Ending the Criminalization of Youth, Address the Roots. As my colleague Jordan stated earlier, vision sessions are very raw and transparent community conversations. It is because of these very conversations that CTJA has been able to grow in our understanding of the needs of our communities and youth especially. It is no new fact that our underserved communities suffer from the lack of several needs that we have been able to identify through our vision sessions and continue to highlight in this report, such as housing insecurities, economic insecurities, and lack of trust, just to name a few. However, it was important to CTJA to touch on the exasperation of these needs and further lack of support for young people during the pandemic, along with some new and very significant themes that we've been able to come across. The legislature and the media have created a narrative that young people are the cause of a rise in crime since the beginning of the pandemic here in Connecticut, only failing to realize that the continuing lack of support during a time of greater need has a direct connection to the decisions being made by our disproportionately treated Black and brown youth. It is in continuing to do our vision sessions that we have noticed the significance of everyone needing to admit and address the obvious racial inequity in our system, and how this very inequity can be helped with adequate people being put in proper community spaces in order to step away from the over-reliance of police in improper circumstances. We need people to dig deep into our societies and make a connection between what young people need and what causes them to make certain actions. We need to make the connections between young people needing somewhere to sleep and choosing cars to be that place. And we need to address the connection that police have to trauma. And through these realizations, everything has brought us to one of our main points to make, which is that we need to address the root. We need to address the connections and all the insecurity and all the lack of trust within the youth and the rest of their community. As without trust, there is no safe space. Without credible messengers, there's nobody to go to second guess yourself before making that not so great decision. I've heard our executive director, Christina, say before that nobody wants to make bad decisions and nobody wants to get in trouble. I believe this to be true. And you will learn through this report that we as an organization believe that addressing the root causes of misbehavior can provide a great contribution to the prevention of youth incarceration and system involvement in the future. Thank you for listening today, and I'm going to pass it over to Public Policy and Advocacy Director for the ACLU of Connecticut, Claudine Constant.
Hey y'all, can you hear me? Okay, so my name is Claudine Constant, and I am the Public Policy and Advocacy Director at the ACLU of Connecticut. Thank you to CTJA for being like one of the only voices over and over and over again in this space, asking and calling on people in power, calling on people in our community to focus on the root causes and not focus on punitive solutions that are knee-jerk reactions to things and situations people don't want to be in the first place. Oftentimes when you see me out in these spaces, I'm wearing earrings that say some kind of thing, right? Today my earrings say no human is illegal, right? I wear other earrings that also say nobody wants to be poor. Why do we live in a society that continues to criminalize poverty? Why do we live in a society that continues to criminalize situations that no person wants to be in? We find ourselves year after year watching our legislature, watching people in power make decisions that continue to invest in the over-policing and over-marginalization of people that are already marginalized. Just this legislative session, we watched the Senate and the House vote on a bill that none of us wanted to go through. None of us wanted to see youth continue to be blamed for the rise in car thefts that were happening, not only in Connecticut, but in our country. And data shows us that actually, number one, it was not kids. And number two, it actually wasn't a rise in crime. I just feel like a broken record at this point. What we continue to call on, what we need to see happen, what folks like CTJA are continuing to push for, our brave youth are out here, putting themselves out here saying, we don't want to get in trouble. We're not trying to do this. Invest in us and stop investing in police that only cause harm. And so the ACLU of Connecticut supports that statement. The ACLU of Connecticut will continue to be out here on the front lines with folks like CTJA, asking for our society to invest in people, not prisons. You'll see us at the legislature and all over the place, honestly. It's an election year. We have an opportunity, y'all. It's an election year to be on the campaign trail and call on people who want to be people in power to make the right decisions. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of justice and investment and believing that people have the opportunity to thrive? Or will you continue to fall on the side of investing in policing? It's up to y'all at this point. When I say people, Y'all know what to do. Say not prisons. Ready? 1, 2, 3. People.
Not prison!
People.
Not prison!
People.
Not prison!
People.
Not prison!
Invest in us, not in police.
Woo!
I don't know who I'm calling up next. Christina.
One seat to another. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out today. I'm going to wrap us up. I'm going to remind us and reflect back on the comments of all of my great colleagues that came before me to say that it is so important as we enter this election season, as we enter another legislative session, that we're not yet again focused on investing in police, investing in incarceration, investing in the carceral state that only causes more trauma and damage to communities, and then asking why certain things happen. I want to remind everybody that as the executive director of CTJA, we want economic security, healed communities, we want trust bill, we want credible messengers, we want housing security, we want hope, we want equal opportunities, and we demand that Connecticut and the state legislature addresses the root. If we don't invest in young people, if we don't invest in families, if we don't invest in communities, we're doing the wrong thing. We're making the wrong choice. Without investment, there is no success. As we enter this election season, as we go to the polls to vote in November, reflect upon who voted on specifically House Bill 5417 this session and ask what they've done to better their community and to honestly better Connecticut. It's time to change the narrative. Youth are our present, they are our future, they deserve our investment. Let's move forward smart and address the root. Thanks for coming today. Please access our report at ctja.org.
So that concludes it, unless anybody has any questions.
Can you give us a brief statement about, like, sum up the 2 paragraphs as to what you mean by criminalization of youth and what are next steps?
When we talk about the criminalization of youth, we are referring to young people that are being systematically funneled into the youth legal and adult legal systems, that are being brought there because of all of these things here on the left. When we're talking about lack of access to job, lack of access to treatment for young people, that's delivered by credible messengers, which means people that are delivering those services look like them and have been through what they have been through. We're talking about not having communities where there's hope present. We're talking about communities that are robbed of equal opportunities, that have been divested in for centuries. That's what we're talking about, youth being criminalized. There's the school to prison pipeline. There's the cradle to prison pipeline, right? We are a state who has a adult prison where young men go to, Manson Youth Institution, that's under federal investigation, that was found to violate the civil rights of children, where legislators sat this session and said it would be a great idea to send more young people there. So we have a problem there. The solution is to address the root issues. That means addressing all these things here on the left. That means stepping up to the plate and confronting racism and all of the things that bring us to unequal, unfair, racist systems, right? So we're talking about problems in education, problems in the legal system, problems with food access, all of these things that need to be addressed, that instead, session after session, most legislators have chosen to instead criminalize young people and make it easier to hold them in detention longer, and funnel them right into adult prison without making a stop to do any of this to the left. And that is shameful and inexcusable, and that has to end. The investment in police has shown not to work. Even some police officers in business sessions that you heard about earlier have talked about that. They know that's not their role, right? They come after the fact, after the crime. We need to be investing in these things on the left, and we'll be in a better place if we address the root. In terms of support from legislators, this session was interesting since we're entering an election season, right? Folks had to choose a vote at the poll over the life of a child, right, and success of a child. We do have some legislative champions who have been upfront and vocal about what needs to be done. There needs to be more, and people need to stop hiding behind their constituents' complaints or whatever that may be. Stop hiding behind what they know is right and come out and say, you know, we're not going to vote yes for a bill that's going to criminalize young people further. We're not going to do that. I might not get elected again, but that's okay. That's what should be happening.
I know you're focusing on long-term solutions. It's a big issue. Do you have any short-term solutions, or the governor and the legislation we're right here right now, what would you tell them to do first?
In terms of short-term solutions, I would say the funding, the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we have received as a state of Connecticut that have sort of been floating, or people have assigned to police or more surveillance, which is shameful. When we're talking about what young people need, young people have come to the table to tell you what they need, and how dare you then allocate those dollars to surveil them more and not help? You didn't do any of this on the left. You broke trust. I don't know how investment in police and surveillance does anything for housing security. You know, we need to do something that's going to address the root. There's plenty of short-term solutions that are not punitive and don't involve handcuffs and prison cells. We know what they are. We know what nonprofits need to be further invested in that serve youth currently today. That's working very well. People turn a blind eye and say, instead we'd like to punish kids, because there's a choice. You're going to punish someone or you're going to teach them a new skill. Which is it? And don't be confused about the result when you've spent years punishing young people and divesting in communities. Anything else? Thank you both for coming, reporter-wise. Thank you all for coming. And please access our report, ctja.org. There's a fantastic video on there too that talks about all of our work and vision sessions, talks about the movement of the Connecticut Justice Alliance, where we've been, where we want to go. Tuesday through Thursday this week, we are hitting up vision sessions in New Haven Tuesday night, Norwalk Wednesday morning, and on Thursday evening is Waterbury. So if you go to our website, you can click, sign up for those events. Come join us at Brewport down the street on Friday from 12 to 3 for some pizza, some drinks, some salads, some games. Let's celebrate our wins and push forward. Thanks, everybody.